It's the Morning Star Drive 117.8. You soaring up with sky, now's the time, don't delay. I'm sitting in my ride and it's time to fly. So let's realign, just listen and fill your mind.
I'm burning with desire and the passion. Nobody can stop me when I'm like this. I got my head in the zone, you know. I'm on the Morning Star Drive, you know.
Hey guys, how's it going? It's Wednesday, May 26th, and this is the Morning Star Drive on 117.8. We're on YouTube, so make sure to subscribe, follow us on SoundCloud, and make sure to support us on Patreon. So what is going on today on this wonderful Wednesday? Of course, we have coronavirus updates with the current news from around the world, and of course, realizing from the Tuesday morning message. All right, guys, so it is Wednesday already, the middle of the week, but it is a special day because we have the Wednesday service tonight, and it's not just done by anyone, it is done by our beloved head leaders. So I hope that everyone pray, support your head leaders, make sure that they get the spiritual power to deliver a crazy message today. And guys, just want to let you guys know, Sunseam sent them basically 13 proverbs, so they need a lot of prayer to give just a powerful and inspiring message where people can feel the Holy Spirit. So make sure you pray for them, and also after, as always, make sure you text them, tell them the points that they really enjoyed from the message too, and I know that they'll get encouraged and they'll receive a lot of strength from it also. I just want to remind everyone too, just keep liking and commenting. I want to hear from you guys and see how you're doing, so write your questions, requests, testimonies, anything you want, feedback on some of the segments also. Last night, we just had another Lab 78, and of course the title was, "Is this my last episode in Malaysia?" And it is possible. I could be leaving within a week or so. So I do talk about some shared experiences I've had in Canada, how I grew up. Also, remember this week's Sunday edition, I interviewed Andrew Chow from Texas, and that's in the US of A. Make sure to catch that interview. He is the second half of the Sumney Boys, so hopefully you guys will really enjoy that too. Next Sunday edition, we'll be meeting a member from somewhere else from around the world. It will not be America. It'll be someone from Australia. So look forward to another inspiring interview. Also, the Monday Bible study on the purpose of creation, that has been posted on Patreon. So go ahead and check that out. All right, so let's get into today's featured artist of the day on this wonderful Wednesday. Who is our featured artist? It is Mariah Henry from America, and this song is called "I Win," and this does feature the Sumney Boys. Hope you guys will really get pumped up and receive a lot of strength from this song. And then we have Dia Wings from Korea with "Troublemaker," and then of course The Sky from Japan. We'll break it down with the song "Home." All right, guys, so just make sure as we're continuing these prayer conditions that we keep all of these member artists from around the world in our prayers.
This is on a high level, you can't catch us. We the fastest, you the turtle, we the cheapest. Slicing demon like fajitas. I'm just crazy with ideas, so don't you make me turn into your greatest fear. I'm just shining brightly like the star of Hollywood. I just said I care like the little engine could. Made my dreams for real with the action that I took. Celebrate the win, cause it feels so good.
Thought it'd be over, but we put up a fight. Move to the left because this history's right. You thought we stumbled, but we finished. Achieved victory, we did it. Put your hands up high, cause now we won. Sometimes it's hard when my head is up high. He worked too hard for you to say it's a lie. You thought he stumbled, but he finished. Achieved victory, we did it. And my hands are up like I got that go, rock him till like flames. And there's way too much inside my brain. We shine the light like cannot be contained.
We got the truth, we figured it out, you know we ain't crazy.
Determination in my eyes, got my eyes on the prize. They looking staring at the sky, they don't know about these times. But I'ma just keep on just killing it. They looking at us like we villains. They silly, I'm like really, don't you know I'ma kill it. I'm not dropping low, everything I do for him is not just for show. They come and they go, but I don't value my position, staying for show. You wanna be great, you have to have the vision, there's a purpose for it. RP to the face, cause they're gonna all get exploited.
Thought it'd be over, but we put up a fight. Move to the left because this history's right. You thought we stumbled, but we finished. Achieve victory, we did it. Put your hands up high, cause now we won. Sometimes it's hard when my head is up high. He worked too hard for you to say it's a lie. You thought he stumbled, but he finished. Achieve victory, we did it. And my hands are up like I got that go, heart comes out like flames. And this wave's too much inside my veins. We shine that light, cannot be contained.
We got the truth, we figured it out, you know we ain't playing.
Yeah, win, cut it off, stand. Got me like, they keep fucking while we win.
Yeah, I win, cut it off, sin. Got me like, they keep fucking while we win.
Victory's achieved, finally, yeah, we going up. Victory's achieved, 316, do you know what's up? Don't come after me, you don't know what I'm cooking up. I got the recipe, come and see.
Yeah, I win, cut it off, sin. Got me like, they keep talking while we win.
Yeah, win, cut it off, stand. Got me like, they keep talking while we win.
예상과 빗나간 현실이 의도와 달랐던 실수가 날 집어삼킬까봐 가진 걸 빼앗아갈까봐 마음을 닫고 눈을 감고 거짓된 주문을 걸면서 새롭게 되었다고 비참한 착각들을 하지.
잠깐만 눈 감아줘 babe. 어차피 시간이 흐르면 사라지겠지. 찜찜해도 make it 거짓 묻어둘 거짓 칼로 take it easy.
눈을 감고서 귀를 닫고서 없었던 척 모르는 척 It will be alright.
Don't hide in bubble, we're in trouble. It's okay, we are all troublemakers. 괜찮은 척하지마 babe, 안 괜찮은 게 맞으니까 속지마 드라마 아닌 현실이야.
바람을 따라 내 마음도 따라 진실을 바라보기를 보이진 않지만 보여지는 내 속안해진 짤보기를 Stop run away 너를 너에게 왜 넉넉넉하게 talk to yourself 하늘까지 닿는 진심만 있다해도 강하게 피어나리
눈을 감고서 귀를 닫고서 없었던 척 모르는 척 It will be alright.
Don't hide in bubble, we're in trouble. It's okay, we are all troublemakers.
진실되게 현실을 마주하길 실수를 마주하는 용기를 갖길
괜찮아 걱정은 마 걸어가는 과정이니까 It's okay we are all troublemakers.
やむことはない特に変わりはしないからいつもの笑顔のまま明るくやり過ごそう眉間にシワを寄せたあなたも可愛いけどその顔で長くいるのはとても疲れるでしょうさあ手を取って歩き出そう僕らの家へ帰ろう二人なら乗り越えられるから僕らの家へ帰ろうもうその涙拭って鼻水も噛んじゃいな繋いだ手固く握って離したりはしないから僕らの温かな本帰ったらいつもの本さあ手を取って歩き出僕らの家へ帰ろう二人なら乗り越えられるから僕らの家へ帰ろう
And that was The Sky from Japan with the song Home. Really, really, I don't even know what the lyrics are. If someone could tell me what the lyrics are, that'd be great. But it sounds like a very emotional and sentimental song. And I hope that you guys enjoyed that. Before that was Die Wings from Korea with Troublemaker. And of course, the featured artist of the day is Mariah Henry from America with I Win featuring the Sumney Boys. All right, guys, so let's get into some news going on around the world. I will start with the coronavirus updates. 167.8 million cases in the world with 3.4 million deaths at 2.08% mortality rate. Top 5 countries going by daily infection rates. We have the U.S. with 33.8 million cases, 604,000 deaths at 1.78%. India, 26.9 million cases, 306,000 deaths, and the mortality rate has gone up to 1.14%. Brazil, 16 million cases, 449,000 deaths at 2.79%. France, 5.6 million cases, 108,000 deaths at 1.94%. And then Colombia rounds up the top 5 with 3.2 million cases, 84,000 deaths at 2.62%. Sweden, one of the only countries not to go full lockdown, is remaining at 1.36%, and Belgium also used to have the highest mortality rate in the world, is down to 2.37%. Now here we'll take a look at the daily infection rates. Top 5 countries. India dropping even more to 222,000 cases in a day. Great news. Brazil drops by half to 36,000 cases. Argentina, 24,000 cases. Colombia in 4th with 21,000 cases, and guess who's 5th for the first time in forever? It is the U.S. with only 13,000 cases in a day. Great news for the U.S. Over here in Southeast Asia, Once again, of course, Malaysia almost hitting 7,000 cases in a day, and then Indonesia in second with 5,200, and the Philippines drops to 3,000 cases in a day. So good for Philippines. I hope that everyone is being healthy and doing well there too. Let's take a look at the top 3 news items for today. Okay, top 3 news items. We did talk yesterday about Belarus, basically hijacking a plane, right? Sending a fighter jet up there to down a plane and to arrest someone on that flight, which is obviously everyone's disagreeing with. And so what happens is the EU leaders have agreed on Belarus sanctions after the journalist's arrest. So the bloc agrees to ban Belarus from its airspace amid other sanctions after the forced diversion of a jet and the arrest of an opposition journalist. So European Union leaders have agreed on a set of sanctions against Belarus, including a ban on the use of the 27-nation bloc's airspace and airports amid fury for the forced diversion of a passenger jet flying between 2 EU countries in order to arrest an opposition journalist. Now, in what EU leaders have called a brazen hijacking of Irish carrier Ryanair's plane flying from Greece to Lithuania on Sunday, they demanded on Monday the immediate release of Roman Protasevich, a key critic of the authoritarian Belarusian President Alexander Lukashenko. Now, the EU leaders also decided to slap individual sanctions of officials linked to the operation and called on the International Civil Aviation Organization to start an investigation into what they see as an unprecedented move and what some have called state terrorism. So the decisions at the summit will be turned into action as soon as legal proceedings allow. U.S. President Joe Biden also condemned Belarus for its actions on Monday and said he had asked his advisors to give him options to hold those responsible to account. So we're not sure exactly what they're going to do yet, but there will be some sanctions coming from America, most likely too. So, total insanity. Basically, in a video released earlier on Monday, Protasevich, right, the one that was arrested from that plane flight, he basically said he's cooperating with authorities and confessing to charges of organizing protests. So speaking in a video circulated by state TV channels, Protasevich said, "I am in detention center number 1 in Minsk." And he basically says, "I can say that I have no health problems, including with my heart or any organs." And the 26-year-old is wearing a black hoodie and sits behind a table in a nondescript room with a pack of cigarettes by his side. And he fidgets with his hands as he makes a statement, and some dark marks are visible on his forehead. So the attitude of employees towards he basically says in this video, "The attitude of employees towards me is as correct as possible and according to the law, and I continue cooperating with investigators, and I am confessing to having organized mass unrest in the city of Minsk." Right? So the comments were immediately dismissed by his allies as having been made under duress. And basically, they're saying that he's being forced to do this. And, a lot of different places make these videos, like North Korea does it too, and Russia has done this before too. So a lot of people, it's pretty crazy. So Protasevich is the one that has made this news service called Nexta, right? And it's basically he has a widely followed blog and ran an interview with his mother, who said that as soon as she heard reports of a bomb scare on a flight, she knew it was a plot to capture him. And basically this mother said that the son is a hero, right? And she was like weeping on this blog also. And she really hopes that the international community will wake up for him, right? And his father also said that this is total insanity and he has no idea what's going on. So at the moment, Protasevich is going through pretrial detention. Okay, so we'll see what's going to happen. And of course, what they did was absolutely ludicrous. A passenger flight, right? This is just a regular civilian carrier. They send a fighter jet up there to bring them down into their capital city. So we'll see what happens. Yeah, and I have no idea what's going to happen, but it looks like the EU and America will kind of get a little bit stronger with the sanctions too. Second thing, we have a war declaration. So Palestinians in Israel decry mass arrests. So what's happening now? So there is a ceasefire, but Israeli police launch waves of arrests targeting Palestinian citizens of Israel who rallied in support of Sheikh Jarrah, Al-Aqsa, and Gaza. So Israeli police announced that they will arrest hundreds of Palestinian citizens of Israel over the coming days for their participation in recent sit-ins in support of Palestinians in occupied East Jerusalem and the besieged Gaza Strip. And the wave of mass arrests will take place as part of what police called Operation Law and Order, and it's intended to penalize those who have taken part in demonstrations against settler violence. And the Israeli forces cracked down on the Al-Aqsa Mosque compound and the military's 11-day bombardment campaign of Gaza, which killed 248 people. So in a statement on Sunday night, Israeli police said some 1,550 people have already been arrested since May 9th, and the campaign is a continuation that aims to prosecute demonstrators who have, over the past 2 weeks, taken to the streets in towns and cities across Israel. So thousands of security forces from all units will be deployed to carry out raids, and it said in towns and cities predominantly inhabited by Palestinian citizens of Israel, who make up about 20% of the country's population. So the statement did not say the campaign would target Jewish settlers who have attacked Palestinians and their homes, as documented in videos and images widely shared on social media. So police, including border guards and reserve brigades, will search homes and conduct investigations until charges are submitted and prison sentences are imposed, right? So this massive arrest operation is a militarized war against Palestinian citizens of Israel, and this is what some Palestinians are saying at the moment. And there will be a rapid response from all Palestinian political movements, parties, and from the High Follow-Up Committee from Arab citizens of Israel. So the purpose of the arrest is to intimidate and to exact revenge on Palestinian citizens of Israel, they say, right? So we'll see what happens. So, rallies in cities including, there's a bunch of cities all over Israel, like Haifa, Jaffa, Lid, Nazareth, right, started earlier this month in solidarity with Palestinian families facing the imminent forced expulsion from their homes in Sheikh Jarrah, right? So we'll see what's going to happen here because, right after this ceasefire, they're going into arrest Palestinians. It's very, very interesting to see what the retaliation from the Palestinians are going to be, right? So that is what's going on over there in Israel at the moment. So last but not least, the last news we have is in Malaysia. So what happened in Malaysia just the other day? Passenger trains collided in Malaysian capital, Kuala Lumpur. That's where I am. So the accident happened when an empty train crashed head-on with another train carrying 213 passengers traveling in the opposite direction on the same track. And more than 200 people were injured when two light rail trains traveling in opposite directions but on the same track collided in an underground tunnel near the Petronas Twin Towers in KL, the Malaysian capital. The accident took place around 8:45 p.m. local time on Monday when one of the trains, which was empty after being repaired, collided head-on with another train carrying 213 passengers traveling in the opposite direction on the same track. Pictures and videos circulating on social media showed injured and bloodied passengers, some of them sitting or lying on the floor, and shattered windows. An adjoining carriage seemed to be in darkness. So at least 47 people were severely hurt and 166 others sustained minor injuries. The crash took place in a section of a tunnel about 100 meters away from the KLCC station, and the line uses automated trains without drivers, although on this occasion, the empty train was being operated manually. So the incident is still being investigated, and they suspect that perhaps there was miscommunication from the train's operations control center. So we'll see what's going to happen because one of the trains was traveling at around 40 kilometers an hour, while the other was going 60 kilometers an hour, and the collision was the first significant accident in the metro system's 23 years of operation, right? So it's not clear why two trains traveling in opposite directions were on the same track, right? So they'd only been moving for about 10 seconds when the accident happened. The 27-year-old basically saying the impact was really strong and people were standing, were knocked off their feet, and others flung from their seats, right? So we'll see what happens. And the Prime Minister, Yassin, said on Twitter that he took the accident very seriously and had ordered the Transport Ministry and Malaysia, which operates the system, to carry out a thorough investigation of what happened. So we'll see what happens. But thank God we haven't heard about any deaths yet or anything along that line. Okay, so that means that we are here at the end of the worldly news, which means we're going to go into some spiritual time. So we're going to start with some praise and worship, and we're going to start with Grab Hold of the Heart, to Let's Preach the Word of Life, and of course we'll end and break it down with I Love the Lord. So as one body of the Morning Star Drive, I hope all of us here will spend this time giving praise, honor, and glory to the Holy Trinity.
people's hearts to burn up like blood and flow away. When your heart's left alone, it goes to waste, thoughts end in vain. Your heart flows away. Now grab your heart and control your deeds. Lead them on to love, lead them to the Lord, pressing on towards that goal. No more God, Spirit, Son work like this too. Their hearts will flow away. Their hearts will burn and fade. If they are left alone, even the hearts will continue on. Make up your mind, then act as you should. Persevere on towards the Trinity. Serve them well, treat them with love. Fire will burn, water will flow, people's hearts to burn up like blood and flow away. When your heart's left alone, it goes to waste, thoughts end in vain. Your heart flows away. Now grab your heart and control your deeds. Lead them on to love, lead them to the Lord, pressing on towards that goal. No more God, Spirit, Son work like this too. Their hearts will flow away. Their hearts will burn and fade. If they are left alone, even the hearts will continue on. Make up your mind, then act as you should. Persevere on towards the Trinity. Serve them well, treat them with love. Make up your mind, then act as you should. Persevere on towards the Trinity. Serve them well, treat them with love.
Let us all go and preach the Lord's word of life. Though we may be weak at the start, we will surely bear fruit in the end. Let us send forth all the people of mission, spread the gospel to all the world, and as we teach, we'll fulfill the will God proposed for mankind. Youthful ones of this time, let us arise. Rise up, shine your light. Preach the new word of life to every soul in the world. Truth is on fire, so we are blazing. Giving all our youth, giving all our youth. We are captured perfectly only through love. We have gained heaven, golden city.
best way to be closer to the Lord. I can see myself when I am praying deeply. I can hear my spirit as it's crying out. At the earnest call I hear opens a window to my heart. Now I've heard that cry, I've come to realize how I love the Lord, truly love the Lord. My body, soul, and spirit truly love the Lord. And the more that I confess, the closer I become. I can see my spirit drawing close to Him. How I love the Lord, truly love the Lord. My body, soul, and spirit truly love the Lord. I want to shout out loud, proclaiming endlessly. Now there's only one way, it's the path of love. How I love the Lord, truly love the Lord. My body, soul, and spirit truly love the Lord. And the more that I confess, the closer I become. I can see my spirit drawing close to Him. How I love the Lord, truly love the Lord. My body, soul, and spirit truly love the Lord. I want to shout out loud, proclaiming endlessly. Now there's only one way, it's the path of love. How I love the Lord, whoa, whoa, oh yeah, yeah. How I love the Lord, whoa, whoa, oh yeah, yeah.
And there you go. That is a song, I Love the Lord. Tell me, guys, that tune and that melody is really like soothing, isn't it? It's really comfortable. It feels like I wouldn't say you're like riding a bike on a dirt road, and it's like the countryside, lots of flowers blooming, grass and trees. There's a little small lake, and plus the sun is blazing. You know, it's kind of like that really soothing song. So I really like the melody for that song. Awesome. Before that, Let's Preach the Word of Life, and of course, Grab Hold of the Heart. All right, guys, so now it's time for us to go into today's or Tuesday's morning message, okay? And one thing you do need to know is you're going to see a lot of these themes in tonight's Wednesday message because, Sunseem was talking a lot, even during the message, about making the script for the Wednesday message for the head leaders this week using the Tuesday message also. So we're going to hear something very similar, but also I think it's going to be a little bit more unpacked and something that's geared more towards our churches and our situation. So I hope it's something that we can really understand and do really well too. All right, so let's get into the Tuesday morning message. And the one thing I really like, there's a bunch of things that I really like, but of course it talked a lot about Satan, right? And Satan attacking. And of course it makes sense because this week's message is about tribulation. And a lot of the tribulation we go through is because of Satan. So if you think about this, guys, and you want to unpack what that means, it means that a lot of times we're not going through like some type of sinful thing or like you've done something so terrible and now you're going through tribulation, because one thing we know for certain is Satan is always attacking. And that's something you have to keep in your mind, is that we can't always be thinking, oh no, I did something wrong, that's why this happened to me. But we see that Satan is always attacking. Why? Is attacking when people are ignorant, when you don't know. They're always trying to invade, especially when you're believers of God. And we learned this in Satan Principle too, right? So in Satan Principle, it's like Satan's always attacking, so you have to be alert and awake. And that's something that we have to understand is tribulations are not only coming just because of sin. It's not only coming because of other things like that, but sometimes it's just Satan coming to attack. Satan comes to attack whether you're doing good or bad. He's just waiting for that hole to open, that crack to open so he can get in, right? And we have to be those that understand even all the different reasons why tribulation comes in our life. Because if you don't understand all the different ways, then we can misunderstand God, misunderstand what's happening to us. God, I'm doing so well. Why would you punish me? And the answer is, what if it's not God punishing, but what if it's Satan attacking? And this is why prayer becomes such a huge thing. And I think Even prayer may not stop the tribulation, but what if it changes your perception of why you're going through something? You know what I mean? Because there's a big difference of you suffering in tribulation because you think God is punishing you, and then you think it's unfair because how dare God, not how dare, but you're like, whoa, how can God do this to me? But what if you realize through prayer, it's because you're doing so well, Satan's trying to attack you to get you off your game. Then what happens is like, oh my goodness, that's a different story. If you change your perception, the way you think about this tribulation coming, you think of it as a challenge, like Satan's trying to get me because I'm doing well. And I do think it's kind of like the difference, like when it comes to a sports analogy, there's a difference of someone doing well because they're on top and everyone's gunning to get like say if you're the number one player in the league, then people are going to strive to beat the number one player. And that's a different type of tribulation rather than you didn't practice, you didn't do well enough, and that's why you were poor in the game. But imagine you're like the number one player in the league and all of a sudden all these people are against you. That's not because you're a sinful person, you did something wrong. It's because you're number one and everyone wants to get number one, which means your mentality should change. How do I stay on top? I got to work harder than everyone else. How do I stay on top? I got to do this. How do I stay on top? I got to do this, right? So we do have to realize this in a much, much deeper way, I believe. Like it's got to be something much more clear in our hearts and our minds. Satan is attacking all the time. Another thing that Sansi talk about is the other half of Satan attacks or us going through tribulation is because it's either we don't do our responsibility or we're ignorant. And those are two things that really can hurt us too. And that's usually our fault, usually, right? If you don't do your responsibility, it's not like you can blame someone else. Oh, you didn't do this, that's why this happened. You can't say, well, you didn't tell me to do this, right? It's like, that's your responsibility. And I like the balance because the balance shows that this is why prayer, listening to the word, and discernment is so important. Because when you pray, you get wisdom. When you pray, you get discernment. When you listen to the words, just now, we're listening to the words through Sunseam on Tuesday. We're like, whoa, I never thought about that. Some things are my fault and some things aren't even my fault at all. And when we think about this, like, oh, then I have to think about this a little bit differently. This is why I need to pray. And this will kind of change the way that we feel and think about tribulations that go through our lives. And even when we counsel people, we can't counsel people and just say, you're being judged because you have sin. Who knows? It could be you're already out of sin and you're coming back and Satan wants to keep you down. But then what if you think it's sin, right? Then you just get discouraged. You don't want to do it anymore, right? So that is something that we really have to think about. And I like how the word is very, very balanced, looking at both sides. Did you think about this? Like whenever I look at the Bible or verses, one thing I do like to look at is understanding what is inferred by a sentence, right? Like for instance, if someone says to you, hey, you got to resurrect, it is inferring that you are dead because you can't resurrect without being dead, right? So when it says you got to resurrect, then you're inferring that Sunseem's saying to you, you're dead. And that makes sense, doesn't it? That's a good inference, right? Like I'm not talking about the petty stuff when someone says to you, oh, you look so pretty. And you'd be like, what? I don't always look pretty? It's not like that, right? We're talking about when God speaks to us, there's a reason he speaks to us with these things. And one thing I thought was when we go through tribulation, we have to go through the times, and half a times. Regardless if it's our fault or not, there's a set time for us to go through a tribulation. Now, if that's the case, what does that mean? It means that just because you pray, you can't anticipate or have expectation that, okay, I prayed, so then now the tribulation has to end. Because if that was the case, the pandemic would have been over by now. You know what I mean? It would have been over, but it's not. People prayed about it 40 days, 70 days. It's still not over. And if we think about this, guys, this is something that we have to understand is just because you prayed about it, just because you listened to the word, like this week's message said, it doesn't mean the tribulation ends. There's a set time for it. And if we think about times, and half a times, it's really about how we should act and be during a times, and half time tribulation. Now, what does that mean? Well, if you remember the times, and half time lesson, there's 3 reasons for the times, and half a times, or 3 symbolic meanings. The first one is suffering. So if you're going through this tribulation or this times, and half a times, that means it's a time of suffering, right? And then the second reason is a time of Satan, right? So Satan is causing, this suffering to happen upon you, whatever it is. But the third one is interesting. It's called the time of mission. So the righteous suffer together with the unrighteous, right? So even at the time of Elijah, the rain did not come down on both Elijah and the regular people. Now, if we think about this carefully, what does that mean? It means that, well, what are you going to do during the time of, if you're suffering too, what are you going to do? And the time of mission means, regardless of what's happening, you still got to do what you're supposed to do. You still got to live righteously. You still got to be good. You still have to be kind. You still have to love God, right? All these things still matter no matter what the circumstance or situation. So what does that mean? It means that when we are going through tribulation and suffering, to get out of it, it doesn't literally mean it's going to stop. It means you still have to do what is right. You listen to the words and you do the right actions, the actions of righteousness to get through them. And that makes sense. Because what did Son say? He said, after the tribulation is when God blesses you. After the tribulation is when the ideal world begins. And we have to kind of look forward to the end of tribulation too. Because, Sunsim also said on Sunday, you shouldn't stay in tribulation, you have to get through it. And if that's the case, we have to think to ourselves we're going to get through this. It's not going to remain forever. Which also means at the end of it, there will be blessing. There will be a more ideal world. And that's something that we have to really look forward to, right? We have to look forward to overcoming. And one thing, as the message on Tuesday also said, is if you've overcome tribulations, don't do the evil thing again. Because then you got to go through more suffering again. There's no point of you. Sasim said, it's the same as you, like a dog returning to its vomit. Right? Just God doesn't want to look at it. Right? Oh my gosh. Like, it's a terrible thing for God to be watching. Right? So that's something I think that we have to, these are some of the things that we should be thinking in our hearts when it comes to tribulation, and as we counsel people, as we pray and we discern and help people too. And then I like how the message talked about how powerful and how great the words of God are. That the word is the core, right? And what is the core word? It is the words of the complete Testament time. And the Bible is the reference. But we need to listen to the words of the complete Testament time. Because these words are what rapture people. These words resurrect people. These words are the ones that can save all mankind. And if you think about it even more deeply, you can't even rapture without the words of this time period. You can't. That's how much we need to pay attention to the words of the complete Testament word. So if we don't, this is something that I think we have to really think about how amazing the words are, but sometimes we lose the value. And I really was when Sunsim said that I talk to God more than people, which means that you probably will listen and believe in God's words even more. And the more you talk to, if you talk to people more than God, the more you'll listen to and believe in the words of people instead. And if you want to, the way Sunsim put it, you want to know how big the words of God are, is if you obey the words, you are a huge, big person. If you don't obey the words, you're tiny like a baby rat or a baby mouse, right? And it's quite crazy because even in Australia right now, there's a rat or a mouse infestation, these tiny mice everywhere, right? And we have to be those that understand this very, very carefully, right? So, we have to be those that don't allow Satan to invade and realize why we need to pray for, in the name of the Lord to cast out Satans and demons at every prayer. It's realizing and understanding. Like one sense, saying, I see it all the time. I can't say it all the time, but I see your condition. I don't have to talk to you. I see your condition of your spirit, right? So that's something that we have to understand in a much deeper form, is because we're not spiritual, we need to realize how important, how big that is, that we have to be those that always cast out Satans and demons in the name of the Lord. Right? We got to get out of our situation, or it will suffer if we stay there. And, that last thing I thought was really powerful was when Sunsim said, I believe the words of God so much that when God tells me 10 to 15 years later, it's going to have a tremendous, amazing history will take place. And he says, I absolutely believe it. And I know it's going to happen because God said it. So it doesn't matter how bad it is right now, because what God said to me will absolutely happen think about it, guys, 10 to 15 years from now, 2031. to 2036. That's 10 to 15 years. So starting from 2031, guys, we have to mark this down. From 2031, it's going to be tremendous, crazy history. And we have to believe it. And in 10 to 15 years, we need to have all of our churches and everyone ready for this tremendous history to usher in the tremendous history. Because if we're not ready for it, it doesn't matter how tremendous it becomes. We have to be ready for it, right? So, yeah, it's quite interesting, this message, and we have to be those that have that absolute mentality of and realizing how powerful the words of the brides are. So, very, very grateful and thankful. And I hope that all of us really benefited from the words this week, right? So if anything else, guys, I hope you guys enjoyed. This is the end of the word study. You know, a lot of things to think about, but I hope that you can infer a lot of things and realize many things from the words that you're hearing every single day, okay? So that means we're going to go into the song of choice for today. Woo! Today's song of choice is going to be a group that is smashing records. So this song just came out recently. It premiered on YouTube, and they have now broken their record of 2020, and they had 3.9 million people in their peak concurrence. Like peak streaming was 3.9 million, which is crazy. They also destroyed the Spotify streams. On that opening day, they had like over 11 million. Over 11 million streams, and that's the opening day record for Spotify. And this group last year, they had that mega hit called Dynamite, and they have a new hit called Butter, okay? So this is kind of one of these disco pop anthem songs. It's from BTS. Hope you guys, I'm sure many of you have already heard this, but let's listen to BTS, and this song is Butter.
Smooth like butter, like a criminal undercover. Don't pop like trouble, breaking into your heart like that. Cool shade stunner, yeah, owe it all to my mother. Hot like summer, yeah, I'm making you sweat like that. Break it down. Ooh, when I look in the mirror, I'm not too hard to do. I got the superstar glow, so ooh, do the boogie line. A side step right left to my beat. I like the moon rock with me, baby. Know that I got that heat. Let me show you, 'cause talk is cheap. Side step right left to my beat. Get it, let it roll. Smooth like butter, pour you in like no other. Don't need no usher to remind me you got it bad. Ain't no other that could sweep you up like a rubber. Straight up, I gotcha, making you fall like that. Break it down. Ooh, when I look in the mirror, I'm with your heart into two. I got the superstar glow, so ooh, to the boogie line. Side step right left to my beat. I like the moon rock with me, baby. Know that I got that heat. Let me show you, 'cause talk is cheap. A side step right left to my beat. Get it, let it roll. Get it, let it roll. Get it, let it roll.
Eyes on my wrist, I'm the nice guy. Got the right body and the right mind. Rolling up the party, got the right vibes. Move like haters. Fresh boy, pull up and we lay low. All the players get moving with the bass low. Got army right behind us when we say so. Let's go.
Side step right left to my beat. Right left to my beat. I like the moon rock with me, baby. Know that I got that heat. Let me show you, 'cause talk is cheap. Side step right left to my beat. Get it, let it roll.
Cool like, cool shade. And you know we don't stop. How like, ain't no. You been like, oh my God. We gon' make it rock in his head. We gon' make it bounce in his head. Hotter, sweeter, cooler, butter.
Get it, let it roll.
And there you go. That is BTS with Butter. Yes, that has been downloaded or streamed like I'd say tens of millions of times already. It's pretty crazy how popular this song is, how popular this group is also. And I do think it's going to pave a way for Providence and like Korea to kind of spread even more. So super happy about BTS. Nice song. Nice and, what's that song? It's like, yeah, disco style pop. It's really nice. Okay, so that leads us into the last section for today. It is Wednesday, and of course tonight we have the Wednesday service. So, I'm sure you guys have a lot of things to think about, and you'll learn a lot more from the message tonight. The thing I want to talk about is the one thing Sunseem said today, that when he heard from God, that 10 to 15 years later, it'll be a tremendous history that cannot even be imagined. It's something that's so big that it would give you enough hope to get through all the difficulties that are happening right now. Even if people are leaving, even if people are struggling, even if there's persecution, whatever it is, there's that hope there that there's in the future. But the thing that I was thinking about is that kind of gives us a 10-year window, right? And I know that a lot of us, especially in the Western countries and outside of the big three, like Korea, Japan, and Taiwan, there's a lot of things we think about, like, oh my gosh, I wish church was like this. Or in some cases, some people are just wishing for church to be more fun, honestly, right? Some people are just hoping that it's more fun. And it's understandable because a lot of times some people are not having as much fun as they should. And especially the young kids, like the SS and the campus. And it's something that we're like, oh man, this is something that we should really be thinking about a lot more. And in the next 10 years, what is our plan? And this is something I think every church should be thinking about, not just the big churches, but the smaller churches in the different countries. Like, hey, in 10 years, what are we going to look like? In 10 years, what's the culture of our church going to be like? How loving are people going to be? This yesterday when I was 2 days ago when I was doing the Monday night Zoom Bible study. At the end, I was really inspired, and in my prayer, I said, if we understand that the purpose of creation is for love, and it's not just to love God, but to love each other in this way, we have to look at the way that we treat each other. Because if it's just about rules, right? So sometimes people are just about, oh, you know what? Well, I got so many things I need to do. I can't steal, I can't lie, I can't do all these things. But then Jesus himself says that the golden rule is like love God and love each other, and everything hangs on to these two verses. And if we think about that clearly, number one is love. And you can kind of get an idea if you're thinking about love or are you thinking about rules? Because rules is when we look at people and say, hey, why did you do that? Why did you do this? And you rebuke and you scold, you get mad at people, right? But if you really looked at love as a center, then what would happen? You would praise, you would encourage, you would forgive, you would help. And that would be the biggest difference. In our minds, when someone makes a mistake, is the first thing in your mind going to be, why'd they do that? Why didn't they come? Or is it more of, wow, I hope they're doing okay. Is everything going fine? Or do we have that empathy? Do we have that type of thinking that's got to go beyond all the different things that we thought, right? And if we are to make this culture, we do have to think about this very, very carefully. What is our goal in the next 10 years? What's going to happen in the next 10 years, right? And I really, really hope that all of us can think about in our churches the things that we don't like. Like, I'm not saying like just complaints like, well, why'd you do this? Why? Not like that. But it's like, wow, if our church had this type of atmosphere, if the people in the church were more caring or loving or patient, right? If the leaders were more, right? And it's not so talking about a complaint like, why don't you take care of me? Like, that's a bit different, right? Because I do think that part of the reasons why a lot of problems happen is because a lot of people don't know what the true expectations or what we're supposed to really be doing is, like, or what the expectation of a leader is. Like, I'll give you one example for sure is like there are wrong expectations on leaders. I know that Sunseem did say that, the only person you could really have expectation on is God and the Lord, right? And that makes sense, but it doesn't mean is to have zero expectation, because when you think about it, expectation is like if I go to McDonald's and I order a quarter pounder with cheese, then when they give me a quarter pounder, I expect a quarter pounder with cheese because that's what I paid for and that's what I order, right? And that's why I can get upset if they give me a Big Mac instead, right? And there is a basic guideline of a leader, what a leader should be. Like, for instance, leaders should have good basic faith. Now, if they don't, so they should have good basic faith, but what about that time when they miss? Are they not a good leader? Or Are we trying to have expectation that a leader has to have perfect basic faith? And that's not true either, right? We're not expecting them to have perfect basic faith, but our expectation should be their faith should have at least the basics, right? And we should have expectations. What kind of expectations? Fair expectation is they are human, which means humans aren't perfect. We're growing as we go. And if we have that in our mentality, in our mindset, and we have proper expectations and have a baseline of expectations, I think there's a culture, and the way that our churches run will completely change. You know, I've heard many things all over the world, you know, outside the big three about, you know, complaints about leaders, complaints about followers. I myself have been in both positions, and, you know, the culture, is it loving? Do people want to be at church? You know, there's all these things that I think about in my head, and I wonder to myself is, how can we make this so that it's such a loving culture more than anything else? You know what I mean? Like, it's going to be a great, powerful culture that makes, what's that word? The atmosphere that makes salvation happen, right? That just by the atmosphere, people feel welcome. Just by the atmosphere, people feel God's love. Like, this is the one thing I do have to say about Christianity is, man, you go to church, you feel welcome. That no matter what you've done in your life, no matter what, God loves you no matter what. And I'm a little bit sorry to say that it's not quite like that when it comes to sometimes in church, in Providence churches, because, you know, the standards are so high and everyone's like, why didn't you come? And it's just, we need to get to that level where the empathy and the leadership and the culture that's driving our churches is just so much based on love that we're not worried about someone passing quickly. We just want everyone to pass in their time, in the way that they should be passing. Like doing things in the way that when we pray, that we'll be led to discern properly, that sometimes people need to be pushed and sometimes they don't. Actually, a lot of times we push way too much, you know? And I hope it's something that we can really get our hearts and our minds wrapped around, right? If a newcomer's not doing well, then they're not doing well, right? And if they're getting ready to do the last lesson, but they don't even fully believe in God yet, you might want to hold off on that and just really start taking care of this person. Because what's the use of learning all the lessons if you don't even believe in God yet, right? And we just push like, oh my gosh, they've almost reached the end. But it's not about reaching the end. It's about realizing deeply, right? That's the thing. And we need to make sure that the people are taken care of at their pace and their speed, right? And I was hoping that, guys, we have a 10-year window, which means that if an incredible history starts in 10 years, then in our heads, we have to think to ourselves is, okay, in 10 years, what do we need to prepare for each and every one of our churches? And I think that's something that we can really think about is 10 years we have to prepare each and every church. What are we going to do during these 10 years? Okay, so it's good food for thought and good things for everyone to think about. What can we do for 10 years? What can we change about the church at a very macro level, right? And of course, in a micro level, what can I change about myself, right? And we have 10 years to kind of make a plan for it. So I hope it's something that everyone starts to think about and start really working on more than anything else, okay? So that is the end of the last segment for today. And I know that tonight we do have the head leaders preaching the Wednesday message. Make sure you keep praying for them and make sure you text them after. Just tell them what they've done well, support, encourage, and just make a culture inside the church where everyone is supporting and loving each other so much. Not just expecting someone to call you instead, but go and manage someone. Not even manage. Go and just love someone more than anything else, okay? Everyone, have an amazing service tonight. Have an awesome Wednesday. We'll see you guys tomorrow on the Thursday Morning Star Drive on 117.8.
It's the Morning Star Drive 117.8. You soaring up with sky, now's the time, don't delay. I'm sitting in my ride and it's time to fly. So let's realign, just listen and fill your mind.
I'm burning with desire and the passion. Nobody can stop me when I'm like this. I got my head in the zone,